Halloween! I'm Linda Augsburg, Executive Editor for American Patchwork and Quilting Magazine, and in this Show Me How video, I'm going to show you how to make this adorable treat bag. Now this video is brought to you by Baby Lock and the Crescendo machine, so we're going to do some fun machine stitching in this project. In order to make this little treat bag, which is great for gift giving, you can see we put a couple candy bars in here, not so much made for trick-or-treating, you're going to need some orange felt. You're going to start with a 10 by 12 inch piece of orange felt, and you're going to cut it into two 5 1/4 inch squares, and then three 1 1/2 inch by 5 1/4 inch strips. You're also going to need a scrap of black felt for the spider's body. You're going to need two wiggle eyes. I used 12 millimeter wiggle eyes. You're going to need one piece of polka dot ribbon about 3/4 of an inch wide, and that's 24 inches. You're going to cut it into two 12-inch lengths. And then you'll need a little bit of fiber fill for the spider's body and some glue if your wiggle eyes are not adhesive. Of course, you can get the instructions for this project and the steps to follow along at allpeoplequilt.com/showmehowtreat. I cut the oval using the pattern that's in the PDF. Then you're going to mark a smile for your spider's face, and I used a chalk pencil for that would show up on the black felt. Now I'm using wool felt, which is a little thicker than the sheets of craft felt that you'll find at the craft store. You can also find wool felt at a craft store in the wool felting products. I decided rather than hand stitch this smile, which was done in the instructions with a chain stitch, I wanted to use my machine. So I chose a satin scallop stitch, which is just going to make a nice, fun little toothy grin for my spider. Now you're going to pin the body to the 5 1/4 inch square of orange. That's going to be the front of your bag. You're going to top stitch right along this edge, leaving an opening for stuffing. Now because you're using felt, it doesn't ravel, so you don't have to worry about turning under that edge or finishing it in any way. Now I'm going to add the legs. Now with the size of this bag, you might only have space for 6 legs, or if you think you can squeeze them in, you can squeeze in 8 legs. So you're going to zigzag stitch in a longer zigzag. Mine is 2.5 millimeters, so the stitches are further apart. I'm going to zigzag up and down, and then for the little feet, I'm going to tighten up that stitch so that they're much closer together and just do a little foot. And I'm going to do this before I stuff. And the reason for that is it's easier to get the 2 layers of felt under my presser foot and zigzag if it's not any more puffy than it is right now. So you can see I've added that leg. Now I'm going to change my stitch length so it's much denser. I'm just going to take a few very tight zigzags there. A nice tacking stitch to hold that zigzag. And then I'll cut the thread. So you see I've got this nice zigzag leg and then a little foot. I'm going to do that for all of his legs, and you'll find that they're going to overlap, and that's okay. Now that I've got all my legs on my spider, I'm going to stuff a little bit, just a little bit of fiber fill in there, just to give him a little extra dimension. And you want to spread that out, make sure you're getting to all the edges. And then I'm just going to use a straight stitch again and sew that opening closed. It's time to glue on the Google eyes. So you're just going to use some tacky glue and attach those eyes. So now I'm going to sew those 1 1/2 inch by 5 1/4 inch pieces for the sides and bottom together. I'm going to sew one edge of the short edge, and then I'm going to sew the next one on as well. So now you can see I've sewn one seam. Now I'm going to sew the second seam. And I'm just going to make sure that I'm sewing that seam so that the raw edges or the cut edges are going in the same direction. Those are going to be on the outside of the bag. So now to sew that strip to the front of the bag, I'm going to pin aligning these edges, and when I get to a 1/4 inch from the corner, which is where that seam's going to be, I'm going to stop and pivot, keeping my needle in the fabric, and then I'm going to readjust this strip so that I can sew the bottom on, again, going to this 1/4 inch from the corner, leave my needle in, pivot, and sew on the other side. Once I sew the front to the side pieces, I'll do the same with the back. So now I'm at the corner. I'm going to lift my presser foot with my needle in. I'm going to press that strip back, and I'm going to make sure that that seam allowance from the strip is behind there. And then I'm going to line those edges up, put my presser foot down, and sew this seam. And the last step is to sew those 12-inch pieces of ribbon to the front and the back of the bag. About a half an inch in, and I used a zigzag stitch, not too dense, but a zigzag stitch to keep everything in place and give me a little more stability. I'll just sew those two ends in, and then I'll do the same on the back. So that's all there is to it. If you're anything like me, you're going to want to make a bunch of these to hand out to your friends this Halloween. So start sewing, they go so quick. Thanks again for joining us. And if you need those instructions, it's allpeoplequilt.com/showmehowtreat.